Between the people in charge of responding to the coronavirus pandemic and the dividing lines are clear. Dallas County Judge Clay Jenkins thinks masks should be mandatory. Texas Governor Greg Abbott does not. Thank you for joining us. I'm Cynthia Aguirre. What we're seeing are different strategies in the approach to reopening and fighting the spread of COVID-19. Masks are front and center in that debate. In fact, 9 mayors across Texas have sent a letter to Governor Abbott asking him to allow them to create their own guidelines for face coverings. The governor has always encouraged Texans to wear masks, but these local leaders, they want the power to do more. In North Texas, the letter was signed by the mayors of Dallas, Fort Worth, Arlington, Plano, and Grand Prairie. So let's get to Ariel Placencia area. The governor held a news conference this afternoon and he addressed this exact issue.
Yeah, he did, Izzy. So the governor was actually responding to Dallas County Judge Clay Jenkins' request to require face masks. And here's the tweet that the judge put out this afternoon. Notice he does tag the governor's office in there, where he's basically asking for more tools to help get people to wear face masks. Well, here's what the governor had to say in response to this at today's press conference.
So all of us have a collective responsibility to educate the public that wearing a mask is the best thing to do. Putting people in jail, however, is the wrong approach for this thing. And that's exactly what I believe the Dallas County judge wants to do, and that is throw people in jail. And that's wrong. I will point out this, and that is that Judge Jenkins has had available to him other tools of enforcement. And he hasn't lifted a finger to use those other tools of enforcement.
Now, Dallas County Judge Clay Jenkins did release a statement in response to what the governor had to say, and I want to show you to it, so go ahead and take a look. It reads in part, "Let's be clear about masking. No one could be jailed for not wearing a mask under my or the city of Dallas's orders. I'm simply asking the governor to lead on the mask making requirement the medical experts say is the single most important thing we can do right now to prevent spread or allow local governments to lead on this important issue." Now, during that press conference today, the governor did say that one of the tools available to county officials is to impose fines. But the governor said not to impose fines for face masks. He was talking about maybe in-person gatherings, Izzy, that don't follow those social distancing requirements.
So, Ariel, we've been talking a lot lately about the number of people hospitalized in Texas. What did the governor say about that?
Yeah, Z, so it's no surprise that the numbers are going up with hospitalizations, right? And so let's take a look at the data here. So this graph that I'm showing you, it starts with May 22nd, but I'll start here with this little dip. So this was just last Thursday, a little over 2,000 Texans in the hospital. The new numbers that came out today, just 5 days later, over 25,000 Texans in the hospital. But the governor pointed out in his press conference today that we have 15,000 available hospital beds across the state. And now he also touched on what the numbers are right here in the DFW area.
Today, there were 64 people who tested positive in the Dallas-Fort Worth area who were added to hospital beds. That said, separate from that, there were 308 hospital beds in the Dallas-Fort Worth area that became available.
So again, the governor's saying that yes, those hospitals are going up. There's 15,000 available hospital beds across the state, but also we have the availability to handle that capacity and these trends that are going upward. Izzy?
All right, Ariel, thank you for all that explanation. And by the way, across the country, wearing a face covering is mandatory in public in more than 24 states to help contain the spread of COVID-19. 9 states have requirements in some of their cities or counties.